We're back with the SportsMax Zone now, and time for some cricket. South Africa beat the West Indies by 158 runs on the penultimate day of the second test at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground in St. Lucia to take the series 2-0. The West Indies entered the day with all 10 wickets in hand and needing to score a further 309 runs to win. But after a period of consolidation, Keshav Maharaj, he broke the back of the West Indies batting with 5 for 36, inclusive of a South African first hat-trick in 60 years. The Windies' second innings lasted 58.3 overs and folded for 165. Scores there in the match, as you see: South Africa 298 and 174, the West Indies 149 and 165. Speaking after the match, the West Indies captain Craig Brathwaite lamented the batting performance. He said, "As a batting unit, we let ourselves down, but I must credit the bowlers. All the guys gave the effort, but as a batting unit, we didn't put partnerships together. As batsmen, we know what we did wrong. We have to learn from this as batsmen and come back strongly." And South Africa played well. "We need to get some rest ahead of the Pakistan tests and work on technical stuff where we could do better." Now, this was South Africa's first away series win since a 1-0 success over New Zealand back in March 2017. Their captain, Dean Elgar, praised the team's effort. He said, "We haven't won a series on the road for quite some time. Captaincy is a challenge, but I wouldn't have taken it if I couldn't do it." The boys stood up. It was great to see guys like KG rock up, that's Kagiso Rabada, of course, and do what he does best. And great to see Keshav as well. Now, joining us now from St. Lucia, well, we are supposed to be talking to Faz. We don't have him at the moment, George, but can't say this is a surprising result here because the first test effort was so woeful that it was just hope that they would have done better in the second test. But the South Africans showing that they are the better team and easily beat the Windies again.
Yeah, you get the sense that there are a couple individuals that South Africa have at the test level that are, well, all right, let me put it this way. South Africa's best individuals at the test level so South Africa's best test individuals are better than our best test individuals, and then you get the sense that as a unit, South Africa are far more potent than the West Indies. I don't know how you can wade through the various strands in all of that, but that's what the result of the two tests in St. Lucia have caused me to draw in terms of a conclusion.
Yeah, and Fazeer now joins us from St. Lucia. Faz, another disappointing effort from the West Indies. The batsmen, as Craig Brathwaite said, have to shoulder most of the responsibility for the disappointment.
Yeah, it's stating the obvious, but at least he's honest enough to acknowledge that, because the point is, and I know you gentlemen have been discussing this at length over many weeks, months, years as well. It's a common denominator, the vulnerability of the batting. And I think what is more stark is that, as we saw with India, with Jasprit Bumrah and company just less than 2 years ago, and now with the South African bowlers, the vulnerability of so many of our top order batting to genuine quick bowling, and especially the short pitch stuff. And that is a worrying situation if you're talking about the West Indies ever being competitive in other environments where there are pacier and bouncier pitches.
Yeah, well, if you have batting statistics that we're about to see here, Faz, then there is obviously nothing that you're going to be smiling about at the end. Roston Chase topping the West Indies batting averages with 24.66. and having scored just 74 runs from 3 innings. Kyron Powell, because of his 51 today, averages 23.33, Blackwood 22, Hope 18, Mears and Roach the next on the list, 14.75 and 14 flat. So real disappointment here for the West Indies batting. But you mentioned, vulnerability to genuine fast bowling, but it was the left arm spinner that did most of the damage today as well. So Faz, the problems are multifaceted.
They are, and credit to Keshav Maharaj. He bowled well. He kept a good line and length. He doesn't spin the ball a whole lot, but it's the persistence. And again, it is the cumulative effect, gentlemen. It's sort of like, like in a football situation where a side is under enormous pressure with some really outstanding play, and then they let in a soft goal. Not saying that Keshav Maharaj is a soft bowler, but the point is that you've got Rabada, you've got Edidi, you've got Nokia, who's very deceptive. and very hostile with his short pitch stuff as well. And then when you face up to Keshav Maharaj, you feel almost sometimes relaxed as well. But credit to him, he picked up 5 wickets, so take nothing away from him at all. So yeah, those numbers, when you look at it, they're disappointing, yes. But when you look at the City players and their overall numbers, yes, in the case of Kyle Mayers, in the case of Nkrumah Bonner, before he was injured, they've had a fantastic start to their test careers. But they've also got to recognize that they can't afford to stagnate, because in this sport, as in any other sport and in any other worthwhile endeavor in life, if you stand still, people are going to pass you by. And this is the worry for the West Indies when it comes to the quality of Caribbean batsmanship.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Maharaj is a better left-arm spinner than Veerasammy Permaul is, Faz. His record certainly suggests that, but we have to look at Permaul, who has taken 142 wickets in the last 3 seasons of first-class cricket, dominating by far the most successful bowler, and it's these West Indies batsmen that he had been getting out.
Yes, and again, it almost seems to be a self-defeating situation where you've got spinners who take a lot of wickets, and this has been going on for years. We were chatting about that on commentary just a couple of days ago, that you could go way back, way before the time of even Ranji Nanan in the 70s and Clyde Butts in the 1980s, and even before that, Arthur Barrett from Jamaica, Lance Gibbs from the 50s and 60s. Spinners generally take a lot of wickets in our regional game. The challenge is that invariably, when they step up to the higher level, for a number of reasons, sometimes they're not given a fair chance as well, which is another point, that's another dimension to it. But our spinners, because they are so successful, especially now in the modern era, against batting that is not of the highest quality, it tends to give a false sense of achievement and security, and when they move up to the next level, they are sorted out. In the case of Keshav Maharaj, it's almost the reverse, because spinners aren't highly regarded in South African cricket. Therefore, he has to excel, and excel continuously. He's got 7 5-wicket hauls per innings in Test cricket. So that means he knows that he has to deliver. And I think this is the situation that we have. Is our environment demanding excellence, or is it rewarding mediocrity? I think that would appear to be a relevant question.
I've had cause, Fazeer, to wonder about whether it is that the players are not receptive to the messages from the coaches, or it is that the message being transmitted by the coaches to the players is not good enough. And I say that because for other test teams, I can see batsmen, there's a difference almost between batting and run scoring. When our guys can't score runs, they're going to get out cheaply. For other test batsmen, I see when runs aren't readily available and the bowling is quite good, they can survive, they can block, they can dodge, they can ride out a period in a session, or they can ride out a session if necessary. Well, that's stretching it, but you get the idea. And they can do that because they can bat. I don't get that sense when the West Indies looking at them, no matter how vaunted the player is. And I'm wondering whether it is that the players, if the collective heads are tough or the individual heads are tough, or the quality of the coaching isn't good enough to permeate that membrane.
I wish I could give you a definitive answer in that regard, George, but really, that would be something that they have to answer in their own hearts. And again, to be fair, let's also recognize that we are in an era where players, not just in the West Indies, are in sometimes a comfort zone or even a bubble before COVID-19. Remember how India and England and how that series went, and how England started to complain about the turning pitches as if this was something brand new in international cricket, when the West Indies have been going in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s on the same turning tracks and winning test matches and winning test series. We are in an environment now fueled by social media where you get likes and shares and you're able to give your narrative all the time to your audience, that people start to believe it as fact, when the evidence of history tells us, whether we're talking about West Indies cricketers, whether we're talking about English cricketers, whether we're talking about anybody else, that the history tells us that a lot of what they are trying to peddle just is not true. And in many cases, this bubble where people are satisfied once enough people believe the narrative that I'm selling, then that's fine.
As we go into the Pakistan, well, no, we don't go into the Pakistan Test series, but that's the next one coming up. Who's the West Indies' pace spearhead, Fazeer?
Right now, that's I would say Kemar Roach. Even though he's not genuine pace, the spearhead is Kemar Roach, because Kemar Roach is, even though he's lost a bit of pace, no one is more committed. No one is more dedicated when you're talking about the fast bowlers. He leads from the front. He's learning. He's always learning. He's always willing to adjust, to modify, to really develop his techniques. Of course, the reference to Shannon Gabriel would be that he's just not fit. And at the moment, the selectors are having to find some way to justify how he could have been selected for a match coming into the match.
And that's where I was going. And that's where I was going with it, because if Kemar Roach is our pace spearhead, then perhaps it is that by time Pakistan comes around, we need to dispense with the experiment of expecting a half fit, three-quarter fit, one-third fit Shannon Gabriel to do the job for us. And we may need to put different pieces around Kemar Roach in the bowling order.
Well, we should never, if that is the experiment, and again, Roger Harper and company will have to answer to that, it could never be acceptable that someone is put into a test match. Test match is a potential 5 days of cricket, 2 innings, maybe 20 overs, and someone may not be able to last that course, and you select them in your final 11, whether you call it taking a chance or taking a gamble and so on. That is not a gamble. That is something that is obviously going to backfire on you, as it has on the West Indies here. And again, take nothing away from Shannon Gabriel and his own efforts and so on, but if you're not fit, you're not fit. The same, Shamar Holder is a tremendous talent, but he's not fit. And he hasn't been given an opportunity since the New Zealand debut that he had at the end of last year. So these are the realities, and that's why Kemar Roach is the spearhead of the attack. He's not the fastest. You've got a greenhorn in Jaden Seals. You've got Jason Holder, who's always going to be there. Sometimes a leader, sometimes a supporter in many ways. But it's a serious handicap for the West Indies to go into a situation where you don't have your fast bowlers of all people fit and rearing and charging and ready to go for long spells.
Well said.
Yeah, Faz, as usual, always great talking to you. We'll keep the conversation going, because real chronic problems in West Indies cricket. You change captains, you change coaches, you change cricket board presidents, and
you change commentators,
and the results remain the same. So there are serious issues here. Thanks a lot, Faz.
You see that commentator thing that you just brought up, George? I always know you are a spiteful individual.
All right, my friend.
Faz making his return to international commentary on television. Great, Faz. You're a top guy.
Top guy. You know it.
A scholar and a gentleman.
That is true.
We're just over a month away from the start of the Olympic Games, and daily we have our Olympic corner. That's where we're at.
The safest way to hold the Olympics would be without fans. If other government measures are implemented to prevent the spread of the virus, then the number of spectators allowed at games venues could be changed. In addition to the limits on the number of spectators, the organizers say that masks should be worn at all times in the games venues, and that shouting and speaking loudly will be prohibited. International fans were barred in March from traveling to Japan for this summer's Olympic Games due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Games, which were originally scheduled to take place in 2020, were pushed off to this summer and are set to open on July 23. That's it for today's Olympic Corner. Do remember to watch the SportsMax Zone for your daily Olympic updates.